Hi, my name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. Now today, what I'm going to be doing is giving you a market update for what's going on in the Mat-Su Valley. We'll focus on the residential, the condo, and the multifamily market. Continues to be a really interesting market as we kind of move into the spring season here. And it's really kind of an unprecedented year in a lot of ways. So we'll get to that in just a minute. Before we get started though, if you haven't done so already, do make sure you give this video a like, do make sure that you subscribe, and if you have any questions, do make sure that you post those in the comments section down below. Now without further ado, let's go and jump into today's update. The first thing that we need to check out is what's going on in the residential market, and in the residential market, what's going on as far as the inventory goes. So this over here clearly shows us inventory is way down from where it was the year before. For example, there's about 505 properties that were on the market on the residential side last year across the entire Mat-Su Valley. This year, about 242. So less than half of the inventory that we had this time last year is gone now. And that's also taken into consideration that that around this time of the year, we were feeling the impacts of the pandemic also. So that's kind of new. Now the next thing we need to look at is what is going on as far as the units that are being sold and the average sold price. So what we're seeing over here, just looking at the 5-year comparison across the board, is that the at units sold has actually been usually right around the 400, just over that 400 units or so up to this time of the year. For what we're seeing this year, that's 525. So that's pretty significant. Not only that, but looking over here, when we're just checking out and seeing what's going on with the average sold price, the average sold price is up nearly $40,000 from where we were the year before, just the year to date. So, and you can see that's definitely very high, even if you're just looking at the comparison across the board. So that's significant. We'll dive more into that in the summary. Next thing we're going to check out is what is going on as far as the condo market in the Mat-Su Valley. It's not nearly as large of a pool as what we would see in Anchorage or even Eagle River, but we're going to use it anyway. So what we see over here, we had 5 units that were on the market last year. This year, we've got 5. So inventory staying pretty similar. So this stuff over here is going to give us a really good breakdown of what's going on as far as the overall volume that's being sold, the units that are being sold, and the average sold price. So this over here shows us that the number of units that's sold up to this time period last year was 12, and it's 12 this year. And as for the average sold price, it's staying pretty close also. We're seeing that average sold price went up very slightly, about $5,000. So pretty modest compared to what we saw on the residential side, but still an increase. Let's take a quick break real quick. Do you have any questions about what my process is for getting properties sold? If you do make sure that you download the seller's guide. Link for that is going to be down below. It doesn't cost you anything. Just make sure you enter in the information and you'll get the entire breakdown for what my steps are for helping people to maximize how much they can actually get for their home. So make sure you check that out, and without further ado, let's jump back into today's update. Let's change gears now and check out what's going on in the multifamily units market. So over here, we're seeing, again, story that's pretty similar to what we see in the residential market, is inventory is going down. Okay, it went from about 61 the year before, 17 this year for what we saw in the past previous month. So really, really low. So there's definitely a high demand for multifamily properties. Talk more about that in the summary though. Now, looking at the 5-year comparison here, it becomes an even more significant story here. So over here, what we are seeing is that the number of units that have sold has actually gone up significantly. Matter of fact, 45 multifamily properties have sold in this market up to this point in the year, and the next closest thing to that was about 5 years before, where it was about 39. So it's really significant that we've got that number of properties that have sold already. And looking over here, we're actually seeing that the average sold price has gone up significantly, okay, to the tune of roughly about $90,000 more on average. Now, there's some things I would say about the multifamily market. First off, it incorporates everything from the little rinky-dink duplex all the way up to like the 30-plex apartment complex, okay? So it really incorporates everything, and getting one of those huge properties that sells right in the middle of this can really kind of throw the numbers off. So that's definitely what we're seeing there. That could potentially happen, but that's still really significant, and it's something we're going to cover in the summary, which, by the way, as we're in the summary right now. So number one, on the residential side, inventory remains really low. Average sold prices are increasing at a rate we have not seen in recent times, and that's because the demand is really high. We see that in the fact that even though the inventory is really low, the number of units that have sold has actually increased over that time period. For the condo market, not a whole lot of movement in the Mat-Su Valley. We see more dramatic movement happening over in Anchorage, but for the Mat-Su Valley, we're seeing the inventory staying pretty consistent. We're seeing that the demand is certainly there still, and the average sold price has gone up a little bit. So not a huge story there. For the multifamily market, though, it's almost as dramatic as what we saw with the residential market. So inventory is really low, but the number of units that actually sold is way up. Because keep in mind, there was about 17 that was on the market, down from 61 available the year before, and the number of units that sold actually went up to about 45. Meanwhile, average sold price has gone up significantly. So what we see from this is a lot of investors are probably tired of the way that Anchorage handled the pandemic and kind of the local politics in the area. So you see a lot of investors pulling up stakes and just going over to the Mat-Su Valley. So that's creating a ton of demand. And if you have any multifamily properties, then in the Mat-Su Valley, might be a good time to be looking at selling. So what this means for you as a seller, your time to sell is probably not going to get any better than it is right now, okay? It's just statistically, we've not really seen a market like this before. I don't think the bottom's just going to fall out of the market. I just don't see it getting better, though. If you're a buyer, we can make it happen, but we've got to be aggressive, and we got to make sure you're positioned. We got to make sure all of our ducks are in a row if we're going to have a shot, and we've got to be looking for properties that are actually below what you can get for your maximum. If you can afford $300,000, we're not looking at $300,000 houses, because we're going to get beat out by everybody else at that price range. So that's really kind of the summary that we see there. If you do have any further questions, do make sure you reach out to me on my Facebook page. Link for that is going to be in the description section down below. I do my best to answer as many emails as I can, but I'm a realtor and I get tons and tons and tons of emails every day. Give yourself the best chance of getting a response and just message me on Facebook. Other than that, if you want to receive more information on Alaska, what it's like living up here, some maybe a relocation guide, do make sure that you register for my website. That's going to be in the description section down below. We'll make sure you get hooked up with the relocation guide and some other great resources. Other than that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.